Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SFA Season 15 schedule reveal stream. We just went through the roster preview. That will be uploaded on YouTube later tonight with the timestamps. But first, we're going to go through the full schedules. Now, feel free to screenshot your schedule, use it. This is when we want you guys to get creative. So let me know if you can see and hear me. We're going to go through all 126 schedules here. We'll go one at a time. Your primary color is going to be your home games, and the white is going to be your away games. It also has a little @ sign as well for you guys. Shout out to Rick. He is the mastermind behind scheduling. Now, greatly improved out of conference. We have greatly improved bye-week placement. We have greatly improved competitive scheduling, and we are now expanding some neutral site games. So we're going to have 4 total neutral site games this season. The New Heights Classic in week 1. We have Army-Navy is now neutral site. Colorado State is neutral site. And then we also have the Red River Rivalry, which will be neutral site as well. Yep. So, yeah, sorry about timing. This is just the only time I have. Scheduling's always hectic. And then grids will be posted immediately after. So if you do need to go to bed for school or work or whatever, grids will be there for you in the morning. So it's like a little Christmas present for you to wake up to. So let's get it going here, folks, as we are going to start out with Air Force. So like I said, feel free to get creative with your scheduling graphics for us. That this is the best time of the season where you guys typically go crazy with your schedule releases or your roster reveals or depth charts and all that stuff. So let's get it started. So we're going to start out with Air Force. Go in alphabetical order like normal. And remember, like I said, it shows you conference games on the right side, out of conference. We show you rivalry games with the names, right? So 3 rivalry games to end the season here for Air Force, and they start out with Wisconsin, and they'll also play UNLV early on in the season as well. Indiana is another important game there as well. So there is Air Force. We're going to move on to Akron. Coach Moon, his first year at Florida Atlantic, at North Texas. That will be a fun one. Charlotte and Missouri are all on the schedule as well. And remember, Akron is the home of Manju Moomin as well. So this is a very fun schedule. Definitely a team that may win the MAC this year. And just so you guys know, I don't know all the schedules. I know very few bits and pieces here or there. So I'm reacting to these schedules just like you guys. So now we got Alabama. I have no clue what's on their schedule. They have Arizona State, Oregon State, and they're going at Kentucky this year. Texas State as well on the schedule. That's a tough draw. I don't know if Coach Fee wanted them or not, but that's a little later on in the year. And Auburn, obviously, to finish the year. Now we got Appalachian State, and they face East Carolina this year in the non-conference. And so, obviously, App State, if they make the playoff again, they would get promoted, but this team is booty cheeks. Arizona and Coach Cam, he's starting out at Oklahoma. So here is a big one that you guys get to see. And then versus Oklahoma State. So facing the Oklahomas here for Coach Cam. That's interesting to start the year. And then you've got Auburn as well in the non-conference. This non-conference is tough. And then Bowling Green later on in the year. But this is a tough schedule for the Wildcats. Tough schedule for the Wildcats. Now let's go to Arizona State. And they've got an easy... looks like partially easy. Now you got Old Dominion, ULM, Alabama, and Miami. Now remember, folks, 2 of your non-conference games are guaranteed to be scheduled competitively. So based on your end of year rankings or how you finished last year, you'll be put into buckets of 4 different quadrants, or it might be 3 or 4, and then you have to play 2 within your bucket from the previous year. So like an Arizona State and an Alabama both finished 5 and 7, so that's probably why they're facing each other, even though Alabama had a down year. So now that game becomes a little bit harder, right? So very, very interesting. And remember, guys, with the new coaching, with the new coaching approval system, your expectation is going to be dependent on who you're playing. So, like, who you're expected to beat versus who you're expected to lose to. So, like, Coach Cam, who has a tougher schedule, is probably going to be expected to win less games than they would in our previous systems. So now we're going to move on to Arkansas, and they are facing Navy. So you guys can start putting together some bits and pieces here of your schedules as we go through them. Like Nebraska is facing Arkansas in week 1, so Nebraska going on the road to Arkansas. So you can start putting some of these matchups together. Now we got Army here, and they're facing Buffalo in week 1 in the bye or in the out of conference. They also got Georgia Tech as well, so that's in the competitive scheduling. Those are the tiers. They also face UTSA a little bit later on. Obviously, we all know what's going to happen in the conference games, but I think the non-conference games are what I'm super excited to be diving into with these teams. And now also, I forgot Arkansas State here, so let me grab them. So we got Arkansas State, Northern Illinois. You've got Georgia, North Texas. So North Texas, now we've seen a couple of their games, and then they also have, trying to find the last out-of-conference game, Memphis. Is that out-of-conference? Yes, that is. So now Coach Cabbage and Auburn, they're going to face Florida State in week 1. That is a beast of a game. That one's going to be fun to watch. Charlotte as well, the traditional rivalry there. Kent State, that's going to be should be a win, but remember, Kent State beat Florida State last year. Arizona, like we saw earlier. So will we see Auburn jet out to a great start this year again? I'm not quite sure. Ball State starting out at Minnesota. So Coach Rick, we see his first game of the year. And then UTEP, Wyoming as well. Very interesting there. I love seeing the name of these, the Battle of the Bronze Stock Trophy. Like, who knows about that? All right, now we got Coach Flame, and that is a big matchup. Woo-hoo! Michigan and Baylor. We've got Flame versus Mango. The old TCU matchup with Baylor. Now we've got Michigan. Oh, baby, that's going to be going. And that's not the New Heights Classic. That is not the New Heights Classic, folks. How is that not the New Heights Classic? Well, you're going to have to wait and find out. That's insane. You also got Texas A&M in Texas. You faced them both last year. You split those games. And then the final one is BYU. Shout out to Flame for picking, I don't know if you picked these. I think you did. Some competitive scheduling. Because holy Toledo. That is a tough schedule for Baylor. Now we go to Boise State. Coach Haydoon, I'm super excited to see this team this year. I'm hoping he continues to take more steps forward. They got Syracuse, Wyoming, obviously, on the schedule. UAB and Vanderbilt. I actually love that non-conference for him. Really think Boise State has a shot at a bowl game this season. My God, Zach, everybody's going 12-0. Unless they face Nebraska. As we got Boston College now. Starting out with Iowa State. I actually like that matchup a lot. Texas, North Carolina, Cincinnati. So there is a matchup for McNasty off the board. And FIU. And then they have 3 home games to end the year. Now let's take a look at Bowling Green, ULM, Pittsburgh. You've got BYU in Arizona. So Arizona getting Bowling Green. That's an easy one. All right, now we got Buffalo. First year without Coach Pinhead. Start out with Army. Then they also have Rutgers on the schedule, so pretty easy there. South Alabama, and also having is that what Michigan State. Okay, pretty easy non-conference here for Buffalo this year. No, well, I was trying to eat fast and it went down the wrong pipe, so I have buffalo chicken mac and cheese in my throat, like in my lung. That's why. Sorry. All right, so now we got BYU. So Coach Ron, we've got Nevada, Syracuse, Oregon is going to be a fun one. Remember, BYU is independent, so some very honestly, this is an easy schedule for them. Nevada's win, Syracuse is winnable. Obviously, Northern Illinois win. Oregon's tough. Illinois should be good. And then the only other hard games are Baylor and Utah. So this could be a 9-3 BYU if they play their cards right. Now we got California in their first year without Chad Blunt. They will be facing Tennessee. So going on the road, Tennessee. Nothing else too crazy here. Central Michigan, first year without McNasty. UTEP. Stanford's going to be tough. Wake and Old Dominion. Now we got Coach Kenzie. We got Texas Tech. We got Auburn, at Akron, and then where's the last one? It's Coastal Carolina. That will be a fun one. And that's the rivalry game now between them, what we're considering a rivalry game. So that is going to be a fun first few weeks there for sure. All right, now we got McNasty. His debut at Cincinnati is going to be at TCU. So a big chance to get a big first win. TCU's not nearly as good as they were previously. Boston College. Just looking for more. Boston College. Where's the other games? Louisville in the MAC. They always play for the Kega Nails, right? And then the final one is Miami, Ohio, the Victory Bell. So, honestly, a pretty easy schedule for Cincy. But the thing is that you want to watch out for when you have an easy schedule and you're a Power 5 or you're a playoff contender is you kind of got to go 12-0, right? So, big year for Cincinnati coming. They definitely need to play well. Now we got Clemson. Down year last year. They're going to start with South Alabama, USC. That's going to be a great game in week 2. You got Wisconsin. It should be in a good game. Obviously, because they had a down year last year, their non-conference is going to be easier this year because their competitive pod isn't nearly as good. So USC is the only really tough game there for them. And now we got Coastal Carolina. We've got Grant Davis, the guy from LSU, and they're facing Ohio State first and Nebraska and Utah. Oof. 0-3 income, and this reminds me of the Hawaii schedule last season where they faced like Arizona, Cal, and another really good team in the first 3 weeks. This is not a good start here for Coastal. This could be a Coastal that like wins the Sun Belt at 10-3. Is their easiest non-con game is Charlotte. Ohio State's probably winnable. Nebraska probably not, especially on the road. In Utah might be winnable because it's at home, but man, that is tough sledding for Coastal. Dang, the Grant Davis welcome party just got sad. All right, Colorado and the debut Champ Bloomers. So here's one of our neutral site games. It's going to be Power Field and Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado, where the Broncos play. Shout out to those new uniforms and all of our moves today. Zach Wilson, baby. But it's going to be Pittsburgh. And it looks like it's an away game. Obviously, the at gets messed up. I don't know if it's home or away, but Pittsburgh's non-conference. We've got Ohio State as well for them. And then Nebraska is a rivalry game. Whew. All right, that's a bit of a tough schedule, but Champ Bloomers, he can do it. All right, now we got Colorado State, and they got SMU. So there's SMU's first game of the season. Get to see Fedro Bautista. Arkansas Troy gets an easy game. All right. All right, Coach DiGiorno, his debut at Duke. He faces South Carolina, Ohio, Kansas, and looks like Wake Forest. So yeah, those are honestly, those are some very winnable non-conference games. So they could be on the up and up here for Duke. Yeah, I have it both up. So yeah, just refresh your stream. It looks good on my end. East Carolina, I've not seen the schedule yet. They start out at Georgia, the defending national champions. Obviously, the only thing we know about the schedule is that they will be number 1. We got App State as well. It should be a win for them. USF and facing their former running back. That's going to be interesting. And then where's the other one? They gave them Michigan. That's going to be that is another slog. If you remember last season, it was like a Georgia Tech, UNC, Tennessee, and now I got Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Michigan, Florida State, and then Buffalo. Dude, that 5-game stretch is going to be hell. There's a legitimate chance that East Carolina has 5 straight games against top 10 teams. You have a game against Georgia Tech, and then North Carolina, and then Michigan, Florida State, and Buffalo. That is ridiculous. Now, obviously, I don't coach them anymore, so but I'm still going to cheer for them, right? But I don't really care what happens. But holy cow, that's not going to be a favorable start. It looks like if they get past Georgia, they'll be like 6-0 headed into Georgia Tech, but it's not looking good for East Carolina in the year after TC. That is tough. Yeah, I'm glad I waited to preview some of these rosters. That's hilarious. Now we got Eastern Michigan, Utah on the road. We got Wisconsin, Old Dominion, and Louisiana. Now, Louisiana isn't good anymore, so that's going to be fine. Remember, Eastern Michigan has a really good quarterback, wide receiver 1, and running back combo. So, this is an okay team. I think that they could go 2-2 in the non-conference, which would be great because I think this is a dark horse for the MAC. Yep, JJs, we have a lot of new emotes if you want to throw them out there. Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at this East Carolina season like we looked at the Buffalo, like they were the weakest number 1 seed ever, right? Or number 1 team. They went 9-3 that year. That's probably what East Carolina's going to do. So FIU, and we've got Coach Grady at Miami, Virginia Tech. They've got Boston College, and they've got BYU. I want FIU to have a good year, but probably won't. And then where do I go next? Florida, the Gators. They got South Florida, Kent State. Very easy matchups there. And then they've got Florida State. And where's the other non-conference game? Miami. All right, Fresno State at number 99 overall, Chadley Brown at Southern Miss. Then they have Minnesota. That's going to be a good game. You got Chadley Brown versus Jackson Arroyo. Whew, that week 2 game is going to be insane. He's a 99 overall after off-season strategies, cryo. But you got Utah State. You've got Kansas State. Man, I'm pumped for that week 2 game. That's a dark horse. Game day. right, now we got Florida Atlantic. So this is Coach G-Man, Akron, Penn State, Syracuse, and Washington State. This is a very sneaky team. They got Cyrus Lloyd, very good quarterback, very good defensive ends. So watch out for Florida Atlantic. They're always a tough win. And now we got Florida State and the Seminoles. Coach Jackie Moon. We got Auburn in non-conference. Maryland going on the road to Maryland. Oh boy, that's going to be a good one. Miami as well. That's obviously and then Florida. But lucky for Florida State, if you're looking at this, a lot of their road games are in the first half of the year against worse opponents, and then the meat of their schedule is at home. So that's actually kind of favorable for the Seminoles. Now we got Georgia. Obviously, they're going to start with East Carolina. We saw that earlier. And then they get just easy Arkansas State and Rice. Unbelievable. And then you get, who's that? Georgia Tech at the end. So 2 tough games for Georgia for sure. All right, now we're going to do Georgia Southern. There you're going to start out with Texas State. They've got MTSU, Nevada, and then it looks like App State, deeper than hate. Then we got Georgia State next, and they face Alabama week 1. They also have Washington and Minnesota and Miami. Oh, Georgia State. Unbelievable. Georgia State drew a very tough non-conference. Luckily, nobody's trying to build that team up, but geez. And then Georgia Tech, we've got Coach Mike's team, UNLV week 1, Western Kentucky. So 2 users. You got Army, the triple option versus triple option. And then you've got Georgia at the end of the season. And then they also have a bit of a tough squeeze there in the middle. Buffalo, ECU, Florida State. And then at the end, at North Carolina, NC State, Georgia. If you're in the ACC, you're going to have a tough stretch somewhere. It's going to be brutal. But that's just kind of how the cookie's going to crumble in the ACC. All right, Hawaii. We've got Coach Woolley facing Virginia, Miami. Air Force is, I guess they have a trophy. Got UCLA on the schedule, and Missouri. So we got the Woolley versus the Tribe matchup, and then obviously saving all the big ones for last. Next up is we got Houston. So Miami, Ohio, they got Minnesota as well. Kansas State. And then, where's the other one? Texas Tech. So there you go. There's another game for you. So Illinois, they've kind of fell down a dumpster fire hole, and they drew a really light non-conference, so it might boost them up a little bit, but Illinois is not going to be good this year. They got Indiana, the Hoosiers. So you got Stanford. And then a lot of conference games. Kentucky's in there. You've got Air Force and UTSA. All right, UTSA facing Indiana. All right, now we got Iowa. Coach Jarkis at NC State to start the season. That's an interesting game. The Cy-Hawk Trophy, obviously. ULM, pretty easy. And then, where's the other one? And Nebraska, obviously, in the Heroes game. Yeah, we're still on the way. We've not seen the New Heights Classic quite yet. On our way. But next up's Iowa State. And we've got Boston College, Rutgers, Navy. That's a very interesting game, Navy and Iowa State. And then, where's the last one? Oh, Iowa is a non-con game. So, interesting schedule finishing off with that Nebraska OK State little run there is going to decide a lot of stuff. Iowa, all right. And then Kansas is up next. Got Tulsa in another Michigan game. So Kansas and Michigan, obviously. Yeah, this is interesting. Duke is on there. You got UTSA as well for Kansas. All right. Kent State now, the Golden Flashes, New Mexico, Florida, Auburn, Ole Miss. They're going on a paid trip to the SEC to lose 3 times in a row. All right, next up we got Kansas State. We got Marshall, Houston. This is just such a bad team that they could legitimately go 0-12. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Now I got Kentucky, Western Kentucky. That's an interesting week 1 matchup. The Battle of Kentucky. We got Miami, Ohio in there. Indiana. And then it looks like also got Louisville at the end of the season. All right, now we got Louisiana. Definitely not as good. They're going to face they're Mills. Then they're going to face Maryland. They'll face Eastern Michigan. And then they'll face Navy. That's an interesting game, Louisiana Navy. And then Coach Key and LA Tech, they're going to face Mississippi State on the road. Then they'll face Wake. They will face Purdue as well. Interesting. And then it looks like they'll also face, where's the other one? Southern Miss, the rivalry in Dixie. All right, now we got Louisville up next. Trying to go for the 3-peat in the MAC. They have USC on the schedule. That's going to be tough. Western Kentucky will be tough. Cincinnati, obviously very tough. The hardest game probably. And then Kentucky as well. So a bit of a tough draw here for Louisville, if I'm being honest, in their non-con. And here it is, folks. The New Heights Classic will be a rematch of the playoff game where Maryland, the undefeated Maryland Terps, blew a 20-point halftime lead to Grant Davis. Will they do it again, this time led by LaVello Blackley? That is going to be your New Heights Classic. That is week 1 game day down in Texas at NRG Stadium, folks. That is going to be a banger of a game. LSU versus Maryland. So, chance for Jerry Schmierman to get his revenge on LSU. So that is going to be a banger of a week 1 game. And then just looking at the rest of the schedule, they've got Washington next up. Then USC is going to be a tough game for sure. And then finally, Tulane at the end of the year. And I guess that's the battle for the rag. Like, what? But yeah, this is a brutal schedule for a freshman quarterback, LaVello Blackley. So big chance for LaVello to make a name for himself in this season. But yeah, the New Heights Classic, I've been very excited about that one for a while. So now we go to Marshall. They have Kansas State, Cal. They got a trophy for Old Gordy. And now we check out Maryland's schedule. So New Heights Classic, obviously. Then they go on the road to Louisiana. Then they face Florida State at home. And then they will face, where's their other one? I don't see it. Oh, Virginia. That's a rivalry game. So now we got Memphis here, UCLA, Mississippi State. And then they've got Southern Miss. and Arkansas State to end the season. Miami, our other independent team, FIU, Old Dominion, Hawaii, Arizona State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Virginia, UTEP, San Diego State. Okay, so this is a bit harder of a schedule than BYU's. Arizona State, Notre Dame, Florida State, SDSU, and Florida are the tough games. So about 5 hard games for them. All right, now we got Coach Moroku over at Miami, Ohio. They're going to kick it off against Houston versus Kentucky at UAB. And then they have Cincinnati at the end. So that's going to be an interesting schedule for them. All right, now we've seen a lot of their games already, but here's Coach Mango's official schedule. A lot of Big 12 in here. They got Baylor, they got Kansas, Western Michigan is a bit of an easy one, and then obviously that circle Week 11, Michigan at East Carolina is going to be a crazy game. All right, now we got Michigan State, Toledo, San Diego State. That'll be a fun game. Ball State, and then at Buffalo. And Coach Rick's schedule, Minnesota, Ball State to start. Then you've got the Chadley Brown game. You got Houston. And then Georgia State. Oh, baby. So, yeah, battle for the Little Brown Jug. And kind of a brutal schedule those last 5 games. Michigan, Ohio State got them at home. And then Wisconsin as well. Favorable schedule. The only tough game really is Fresno and at Maryland outside the back end. So might be in for a good year for Minnesota. All right, we got Mississippi State now. We've got Memphis, Florida, Notre Dame. I mean, this team's going to go like 1-11, so who cares? And now we've got Coach Tribe, UAB Week 1, Western Kentucky. You got Akron, and then Hawaii. Oh boy! So a favorable non-conference for Tribe this year. That Nebraska game's going to be tough. Colorado's going to be tough, but this is doable. This is doable. All right. So now we've got MTSU coming up. Got Cal, Georgia Southern, Oregon, and Rice. I mean, MTSU. So remember, some games are competitively scheduled. Also, not everything was able to work out in like every single request from Patreon, obviously, but the vast majority are. Navy. Okay, so this is Coach Coco. He has Arkansas, Iowa State, 2 tough games here. We got Louisiana and then Air Force to end the year. Yeah, the way conference games work, sometimes you can't have we can't have every single request, but vast majority we've been able to find. Is NC State now, is Iowa, Nevada, Troy, UCLA. Remember, we're trying to do the majority of the non-con in the beginning of the season, right? Now we've got the big one. Here is Nebraska. We got Nebraska taking on Tennessee in Week 1. Oh, baby. So we've got Tennessee at home versus Nebraska. We've got Coastal versus Nebraska. UNLV facing Nebraska. We've got, who else is on here? And then Iowa. So that Tennessee game week 1 will be surely on BearCave. It'll be a good one. Now we got Nevada. Got BYU, NC State, Georgia Southern, and Temple. New Mexico, we got Kent State, Ole Miss, Purdue, and Tennessee. So Tennessee getting New Mexico. It's interesting. We got North Carolina, the transfer portal Kings facing Washington in week 1. That is a nice one. 2 teams that made the playoff, battling it out. Tehu Nakamoto in his first game facing North Carolina. Got UTEP, Rutgers, and then also got South Carolina on there. A lot easier schedule this year for North Carolina than last year. All right, now we got North Texas coach D. Sleep starting out the season at Troy, then versus Akron, versus Arkansas State, so some big-time users, and then you immediately face SMU and UTSA in the oh my god, this first 5 weeks is against 5 prominent user teams. That is a fantastic schedule. And then you also have then back to your non-conference against Coach Pizza in your 6th slot, and then you got Tulsa at the end of the year. That is a fantastic schedule. I'd be so happy. Yeah, I know, but it's still a user-built team. All right, Northern Illinois, Arkansas State, Texas State, BYU, UCF. Northwestern, we've got App State, we've got UCF, UNLV on the schedule, so that will be a fun game. UNLV, Northwestern, and Troy. Notre Dame has San Diego State. That's a fun one. We got Coach Piggy versus Notre Dame. Then they have Florida State immediately. Mississippi State, Miami. And then they finish it off with USC like normal. And remember, that was they also just faced in a bowl game, so that'll be a nice rematch. That was the best bowl game of the season. That wasn't a game day game. Now we got Ohio, and Coach Black, he has Ole Miss, Utah State, Duke, and then also Marshall. Next up, we got Ohio State. We'll see if they have a better schedule than last year. Start out with Coastal. That could be a tough one. Tulane, also a bit tough. Cal and Colorado. That's a lot more doable than previous years, but still some tough games. I definitely could see Ohio State dropping a few of those. Now we got Oklahoma and Coach Jay Jettas. He has Arizona to start the year. We got Virginia at Virginia. San Diego State at home. Red River is one of our neutral site games this year. We have 4 of them. And then Oklahoma State. So, I mean, you can say this is light all you want, Jay Jettas, but you'll be 6-0 headed into Red River, and then you have Texas, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. I don't know if that's light. That is a slog. That is an absolute slog. And then we'll go to OK State. They got Temple, oh man, that will be a fun game. We got Stiquavius Gates against Dale Shivers. That's going to be incredible. That's going to be on BearCave for sure. And then we got Arizona. Tulsa on there as well. And then obviously Oklahoma. No targeting. It's competitive scheduling. And then randomness outside of that. All right, so Oklahoma State. We got Old Dominion now. So Arizona State, Miami, Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan. Kind of like that. Then we got Ole Miss, Ohio, New Mexico, Kent State, and where's their last game? Got 3, and then Arkansas. Yeah, Arkansas is the out-of-conference game. All right, now we got Coach Dave, and we got Oregon. So, we got Coach Dave at Coach Wind. Oh, this is a good one. Week 3, we've got Tennessee and Oregon. That will be fun. And we also got UNLV, Oregon. And then we also have BYU. This non-conference for Oregon is so much fun. And then they obviously have Civil War, Cal, Washington. I love this Oregon schedule. I think Oregon's going to be a pretty good team this year, so I think that's going to be great. We got Oregon State now, West Virginia, Arkansas, MTSU, and Alabama. Then we got Penn State now, Virginia Tech, Florida Atlantic. And then who else? I only see 2 non-con games. Am I blind? Syracuse, okay, that's rivalry. And then Pittsburgh. So Kennard Shorts will be facing Penn State in a revenge game there. Now we'll check out Pittsburgh. Colorado will be a fun game. Bowling Green. They also have... We got the backyard brawl going, and then the Penn State game. And then Florida State is the Cougar Cup. Then Purdue, we won't spend too much time. UCF, New Mexico. You got LA Tech and South Carolina. Loving the schedule this year, man. This is awesome. We got Rice now. A&M, that'll be a nice warm-up game for Herky Streets, not to throw a billion interceptions. UAB, Georgia, MTSU. Next up, we got Coach Nathan over at Rutgers. We got Tulane to start the year. That will be a fun one. Maddox versus Nathan. Iowa State, Buffalo, and UNC. So a bit of a tough draw in the non-conference. And then finishing it out with Cincinnati and Temple. Oof. Tough schedule here for Rutgers this year. Then we got San Diego State now. Coach Piggy taking on Notre Dame and Michigan State back-to-back. And then Oklahoma. And then Miami. Oh, man. San Diego State. Talk about a tough draw. Thank goodness they did well in the portal. Just so you know, Mango, also, like, the majority of scheduling was done before coaching changes, so, like, nobody knew you're going to be at Michigan either. So, it's just, yeah. All right, so we got San Jose State next. We got Texas, Tulsa, Stanford. Remember, I'm going to post all of the grids as well after this stream sometime tonight. And then SMU, Coach Mushbrain, in his first year, he's going to start out at Colorado State, got Virginia Tech, Washington. Now it's going to be a tough game for sure. And then TCU. So winnable games here in the non-conference for Fedro Batista. All right, next up, South Alabama. We don't really care too much, but they got Clemson, Illinois, App State, and Buffalo. That's tough. South Carolina, we got Duke, and then they've got North Carolina. Then they've got Purdue and Clemson. South Florida, Coach AP, he's starting out against Florida. Toledo, winnable game, has East Carolina on the schedule and Tulane as well. Should have had an SMU Baylor. Who's next? Southern Miss now. The Golden Eagles have Fresno State, so week 1 for Chadley Brown. They got Texas, so facing their former school. Oh boy, so B-Dog versus former team. That will be fun. Memphis and, oh yeah, all right. All right, Stanford, can they have a better year this year? The non-conference, definitely favorable. Indiana, Central Michigan, San Jose State, Wisconsin. If they lose a non-conference game, they should get demoted. Obviously, 4 home games end the season as well. So Stanford should be in for a bounce-back year. And Syracuse, their offense got completely destroyed in the offseason. Boise State, BYU, Florida Atlantic, and then they also have Penn State. TCU has Cincinnati first, then Tulsa, A&M. That was New Heights Classic last year, and then SMU. And Temple, we got OK State, West Virginia, Washington State, and Nevada for non-conference. And Tennessee and Coach Nick, you got Nebraska on the road week 1. Got California at home, Oregon at home, and then New Mexico week 9. Now we got B-Dog, we got San Jose State, Boston College, Baylor, and Southern Miss. And then remember, Red River is neutral site, and A&M to end the season, week 14. Now we got Texas A&M's schedule. We've got, they went to the national championship last season. Rice, Baylor, and then San Jose State, and then what's the other non-con game here? Rice, Baylor, TCU in San Jose State. We got Texas State, Coach Fee. He is Georgia Southern, Northern Illinois, Vanderbilt on the schedule, and then finally Alabama. Oh, baby. And next up, we got Texas Tech, Charlotte on the road, North Texas, Vanderbilt. That'll be a fun one, pizza versus Negs. And then Houston. Then we got Toledo, Michigan State, South Florida, UCF, and Mississippi State. Then we got Troy, Coach Airborne, North Texas, week 1. That'll be a fun game. NC State, Northwestern, Colorado State. They try to defend their Sun Belt championship. Tulane and Coach Maddox, Rutgers, and they have Ohio State. They also have South Florida. And then finally, LSU. And Tulsa, Coach Elharm, going to start out with Kansas, San Jose State. They got TCU on the schedule. And then finally, they have Oklahoma State. Now, TCU, remember, is in for a massive fall-off. It's not the same team that has made 2 playoffs in a row. UAB, the Blazers, got Missouri. They got Rice, Miami, Ohio, and Boise State. UCF and Joshua Dubs, Purdue, Northwestern, Toledo, and Northern Illinois. That's a very winnable 4 games. I think UCF could break out this season. They could be pretty good. All right, UCLA, the Bruins. We got Memphis, Illinois, NC State, and Hawaii. I love when the schedules look like that. All non-con and then all conference. Ugh, beautiful. ULM, Bowling Green, Arizona State, Iowa, and Utah State. Yeah, it's not good. I think like 67. All right, we're getting down to the end here. UNLV up next. Coach Cryo at Georgia Tech, week 1. You got at Air Force. And then we got Northwestern, and you got Oregon. And then you got Nebraska. Oof. Winnable is Northwestern. That's the good news. Tough schedule here for UNLV. All right, so now we got USC, Louisville, Clemson, LSU at home is going to be tough. And then Notre Dame. That's a tough non-con for USC this year. They're going for broke with their good team. And now Coach Fink, he has Eastern Michigan. He's going on the road to Coastal. That'll be one hell of a game. And Grant Davis versus Utah. They got Colorado, the Rumble and the Rockies, and then BYU for the Holy War. I like that schedule for Utah. All right, and then we got Utah State, who's going to have to face Polly Pugh, the 99 speed running back. Illinois, Ohio, ULM, and BYU. They got a beehive boot, because of course they do. All right, next up is we've got UTEP, Central Michigan. We've got North Carolina, Ball State, and Miami for the non-con. And then finally for the U's, we've got UTSA. They're going to start out versus Vanderbilt. That's such a fun game. Coach Neggs versus Coach Dogwater here. Then he has some critical conference games. Then he faces Indiana, Kansas, and Army. Those are some fun games for UTSA. And then finishes it off against Coach Fee. That'll be fun. It's a fun opening schedule for sure. Vanderbilt, Coach Neggs, he has UTSA. Then he's going to get mollywopped by Oklahoma. Face Texas State, Boise State. And then Kentucky, LSU, and Texas Tech. Honestly, a very fun non-conference before he gets slaughtered in the SEC. Virginia, almost all their home games at the beginning of the season. And then they're going completely on the road for the end of the year. That's hilarious. We got Virginia Tech up next. The Hokies, Penn State, FIU, SMU, and Wyoming. Next up, we got Wake Forest, Washington State, LA Tech, Central Michigan. And we've got... Who else? Duke. All right, now we got Coach Damien. We got North Carolina, LSU, back-to-back. That is brutal. Now, you get lucky with Georgia State and SMU, but brutal opening 2 weeks here for Washington. They might be 0-2. Now we'll go to Washington State. The Cougars, Wake Forest. You got Temple, Florida Atlantic, and BYU in the non-con. We got West Virginia, Coach Hud, taking on Oregon State week 1. That'll be fun. Lance Malone versus whoever he decides to start at quarterback. Temple will be fun. Marshall and Colorado. No, Marshall and Pittsburgh are the other two. All right, next up, Western Kentucky and Coach Huey. We got Kentucky week 1, Georgia Tech, Missouri, Louisville. That is a hard non-conference. I think they can beat Kentucky. I think that they could beat Louisville. I don't think they can beat Georgia Tech or Missouri. But I definitely feel like Western Kentucky could run the table again, much like season 13. Now I got Western Michigan and Coach Mills, Louisville, Fresno State, Michigan, and BYU. I love how Mango's complaining about the schedule when he has Western Michigan on it. They got Wisconsin. So we got Air Force, Eastern Michigan, Clemson, and Stanford. And then Wyoming. So Wyoming is going to have Oregon, Boise State, Virginia Tech, and Ball State. So that completes the full schedule reveal. It only is about an hour. The grids are going to all be posted here in a little bit. And in addition, either tomorrow or the next day, it's just going to depend on Rick. He's going to take his time. Doesn't need to be out anytime soon, just before week 1. But I'm going to get him all the overalls and all the stuff for our formula. And the coach approval tool will be revealed sometime in the next couple of days. It's an insane tool, and it's really fun. It's what we're basing our approval on for the foreseeable future. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so these are the schedules. I'm going to post the grids. I'm going to post. So you're going to get a lot of at everybody's in the next hour. So just be on the lookout for that. Mute your phone if you don't want me to annoy you, but we're in the preseason. Preseason's the busiest time of the season. So much to do, so much to get done for everybody. So a lot of pings incoming over the next couple of days. We are back. So VODs and everything will be available here in a little bit on YouTube. But yeah, as always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and get those schedule graphics out.